Jó estét kívánok! Szeretettel köszöntöm a Proféta Galériába ellátogató népes közönséget, és szeretettel köszöntöm Miina Savolainen, finn fotóművész és szociális munkás, aki ennek a kiállításnak a gazdája. Minden tekintetben nem csak ő készítette a fotókat, hanem ő dekorálta az egész galériát is erre a stílusra, erre a hangulatra, amit itt látnak. És szeretném felkérni, hogy tartsa meg az előadását, amit egyébként online is lehet követni a fotóklik.hu. I would like to introduce Miina Savolainen. This lecture will be in English and it won't be translated, so it will be about half an hour, and after it it's going to be a guided tour, and you can ask questions and talk with Miina. Please.
Thank you, and you are all very warmly welcome to the Loveliest Girl in the World exhibition on my behalf. It's a pleasure to be in Hungary and in Budapest. I actually had many very warm memories in my younghood in Hungary in early 90s and the late 90s. I were, for example, in Sokáig rock festivals and that kind of thing. So, and also our nations are a little bit related by our languages, and I think that makes this moment also a little bit special. And this exhibition has toured around the world, and it has come and arrived to the Budapest from Washington DC, and it's also very nice to see that people from very different cultures and also very different area of the world are understanding this story about becoming visible and story of invisible child very similar ways, and also I think that some of the power of these photographs are such an emotional that you don't even have to know the background. Some people just start to cry when they are looking at these pictures because you can see the hint of trust and hint of happiness and maybe that kind of things that are so intimate that they are very rare in public photographs. And also to me this exhibition and these pictures are still very moving because I also can see how we have been looking at each other with these girls, and they are very dear and special to me as well. And they will, and they are now actually young adults. So, for example, our youngest one, Petra, who was just 9 years old when we started, when she wanted to have wings and pictures in winter times because summer isn't her thing at all. She's nowadays 24 years old, and eldest ones, for example, Monna and Milla, they are over 30 years old, and many of them have nowadays their own families. And so my role is like be kind of grandmother or something like that. And I'm very proud about it, and it's also very touching to see how kind of a generation chain of neglect or losing childhood hasn't been heritage anymore, and it hasn't been continued, and it's maybe I think the most important thing which might happen. And about this exhibition, it has very special background because I have kind of mixed education. So at first I am a social educator, and I am also photographer, and also this project and a bigger concept behind it, the method called empowering photography, which I have developed. It's it's born kind of mixture of this both point of views. I couldn't done this project or develop the method without a knowledge of the both different way of thinking, because here is so much therapeutic issues going on behind the picture, so I really needed to be carer at first. And this background is also among these pictures. Also, that's why, because the project originally started from the real needs from the work, because I went to children's home in young enthusiastic social worker as my early 20s, so I were really young myself as well, and I really felt that it's most important job you can ever do. Actually, I still think that way, and the thing that has happened in the life of the children in childcare is typically that the roles of the parent and the child has turned upside down, and the child is the one who has to take care of the children, of her parents. Sorry, and the child has to face a lot of worry and fear about the parent, and also she has been seen through parents' needs, and also, for example, in children's home and outside it in society, she has been seen through problems and labels and expectations of other people. So they have faced a lot of invisibility, and it's very typical that child just feels that to be maltreated, mistreated is somehow her own fault, that she's not that precious, that she has to be treated like appreciative way and loving way. And I think that was the most big issue in my job. I just thought that the most important thing would be that the child has to understand that what was happened in her family is not her own fault, but she's precious and worth of loving. And now maybe the most difficult issue also were that our basic tool in social work, it is normally verbal language. But you know, say to the child that you're perfect as you are and you should be treated well. It's just words. It doesn't mean that much. It doesn't change really things, because also these kids has a lot of experiences that their trust has been betrayed by words, hurts which were very hurtful, and also they have faced so much disappointments in their lives that they are kind of giving up keeping hope, or giving up to be seen, something like that. And actually also those things we should talk about, which were related to life history and family relationships, and sense or experience to being kind of abandoned. They didn't get abandoned concretely because they have their parents, but because of parents' alcoholism and drug addiction or mental issues, a parent couldn't take care of that kid, and it feels like being abandoned from the child. And those things are so hurtful. It just hurts your existence and your permission to exist. So there are no comforting words enough to speak such a things. And I just thought that it has to be some other way to do my job. Actually, our tools were professional, but child's need was to be loved in the end, no matter what kind she is or what she's doing. And that kind of ideas really keep up my mind in those days. I really consider what is the way I could do my job in decent way, which is powerful to change things. And somehow like that, this idea came up to my mind because I have also background as a photographer. So I knew that a photographer has that kind of power as an emotional evidence. You know, when you're taking the photo of your very sweetest person, your beloved one, for example, your child or your spouse or some very meaningful person, they're an idea that to look at that person is so meaningful that you just can't get enough of seeing. That and I think that to take a photograph is some kind of clumsy idea to express that love toward that people. So when you frame that moment and when you make it last forever, there is an idea that your gaze, your way of looking, is also left a mark into a photo, and you can try to explain to the meaningful person that this is how special you are for me. And something like that came up my mind when I just started this project. But unfortunately, this same thing is also kind of difficulty in photographing as well, because normally it just happened that the picture that I thought it was important to me to give to my dear person, it doesn't mean anything to him. You know, he don't maybe recognize himself at all from the picture, because totally other pictures were meaningful for him. So we just actually faced in photographing that our capability to love each other is always clumsy and limited. We cannot love another person like he wanted to be loved, because we love him like we desires, and that's the a problem. Because for example, in family photographing there might be a lot of feeling of being walking over, or not being heard, or not being understood, or not being seen, because normally just one person in families are taking photos, so they are his point of view and his meaningful things, but they can never be meaningful from the point of view of every family members. So that leads to a dialogue. If we want to kind of give back that love to the photograph that we originally wanted to be in there, we just have to be more reciprocal and start to listen what is meaningful for the other person, how he wanted to be seen. And this is the point of the method of empowering photography, that we are switching totally the roles of the photographer and the one who's in front of camera, so that the photographer has to listen what is meaningful for him, and he will decide. And the photographer has to understand that it's not my photo anymore, actually, but it's his. And we have to let our picture go all the time, and it's very hard because we are attached the picture we have been seen, and which is important to us as well. But this is a little bit the background. But nowadays, this method of empowering photography, which is the wider concept behind this exhibition, it has been used in Finland a little bit over 10 years in different kind of care fields. So my main job is actually to teach social workers or therapists or doctors or teachers how they can apply this method into their own basic tasks in their work and with their clients. And then actually the point is that the professional actually is learning to listen his client better. So it's the same thing which happen in photographing. So a carer has to, or helper has to understand that he cannot know what is empowering and meaningful for the client, even if he had helped so many similar persons before. He still doesn't know what is meaningful and healing for him. And empowering photography means that we are letting us into kind of unknown position and into the creative process with the client. And then it happened that the struggle for power, which is normal, for example, in social work, that we are trying to pull the clients to the certain direction, for example, to sobriety, and he doesn't want to go there because, for example, alcoholism means that someday you maybe want to be sober, but someday you don't. So and then all the resources are invested to resist my trying to help him, you know, and that's the problem. And finally, we don't reach anything, and I just have to take that kind of conclusion that he's not ready for the treatment or motivated enough to the treatment, so it's somehow his own fault. But when we just turn out our own mindset and trying to face him a clean state without our own expectations, then it happened that the person has more space to his own identity work, and our roles just will change then. And then actually happens kind of miracle that even that kind of clients that we have think it as a professional, that they are almost impossible, that we cannot help them. So they are just showing such a constructive capability to look at themselves and their own lives very healing way. And that's always what happens when dialogue works very well. So that's what people are doing nowadays. So actually the concept is not that we are having a dress and go to the forest and take a picture, but several carers are doing a different kind of project with different ages of people, and they are doing their own photos and using album pictures and anything, but always the point is to learn, listen to other person more. So, but back to this project. The loveliest girl in the world, the point was that I just wonder how I can tell the child that she's precious, and all those bad things what was happening in her life wasn't her own fault. I just wonder if I photograph, for example, how special Paula is that she's totally different than anyone else in this planet, and how she's beautiful and how she's valuable. Would she see all these things in a picture too? And this idea just hit the nail. It didn't work at first at all, because almost all of our girls just felt that those pictures were at first horrible, that they were just shocking. For example, Mona in these red walls, she just said that they were totally awful, because it is such more than just your appearance, because in your self-portrait you really can see how you're doing and how you're feeling, and if all the things you have difficulties to accept in yourself. If you have very painful feelings, it might be too painful to look at the picture because it tells so much to you then. So your way of looking yourself has to become more gentler, and you have to find comforting elements, like in these pictures, like greatness of the nature has been such an element. So they didn't saw the specialness in the pictures at first, but what was very healing from the very beginning was actually that in those situations we took those photographs. Between us there is a camera, which actually allowed us to look each other in the eyes much more longer and much more deeper, which is normal in social situations. And I understood that this was just the thing where our girls has been missing from their very early relationships from their parents, for example. They haven't been looked in a manner which is loving and accepting and present. And that's why many of them just benefited greatly from photographing itself. And it was very, very touching, because these children are very special, because there are so much shame and so much losing hope and that kind of thing. So they are kind of sad kids, and that's why, for example, as a young social educator, I just have to do something because they affect to me that much. And when they just were in front of my camera and in front of my eyes, I just saw how they are just, like a shy way to little bit getting alive or getting more open and start to blossoming and enjoy the attention they got. And it was very, very touching to see. And the very important thing as well was that when we came from the children's home in totally different place, which were at first just the small forest next to children's home. So we just went other side of the street concretely. So it wasn't any big trip at first, but just this little movement made us to be in different role than in children's home, because I couldn't be kind of controlling carer who is developing the child a certain direction, because as a photographer I was on the insecure position, because I didn't know what kind of pictures I can do for her. I didn't know if I can do for her empowering pictures, but more kind of hurtful pictures, and that's why I have to listen her in every senses I have, and trying to get her feel so secure than possible. And she didn't know herself or see herself at that position, and it's to be in front of camera, you're losing your own control, because a photographer sees you some way, but you doesn't know if she on your side, or will you become understood or listened. And that's why it's all about the trust, surrendering you on other people looks or gaze, and because she doesn't see herself as, I had to be kind of mirror and tell kind of paint from front of her eye what is happening, and I tell Paula, for example, in this picture there is minus 33 degrees Celsius. It's freezing, and we have been driving through all night, and the sky is full of stars, and it's so cold, and when we get to the field on the morning, there is very beautiful dawn, and there's a frog, and sun is totally orange, and sky is like a purple, violet, and it's magical. And Paula's eyes are very sad, and I told her how touching it is and how important this moment is, and trying to anyway get her feeling that in that specific moment there is capturing some very important things on a film, and also because they have been lost so many things. It was typical that in those very early photo shoots, they actually, when they got that kind of attention they haven't had before, it arouses kind of sadness about their loss. And I think one of my roles was just let it be, just allow any kind of feelings to become visible as an important part of their lives. And at the same time, the beauty of the nature and adventure we experienced was a comforting element. There are kind of meaning of deeper beauty. So if the world has seemed to these girls like a bad world where people are doing bad things to each other, hurtful things to each other, and child feels that she's somehow causing it, I think the meaning of this picture is also that that if we want to understand it that way, the world could also be the beautiful and comforting place, and then it's as true as the bad world is. But it's how we are understanding and how we are seeing it. And to many of our girls, those very first photo shoots were just meaningful and healing, and I think we both understood that now it's capturing some very special thing. And for example, Paula said that she felt that she can forget all the sorrow she normally bears and just be here in a place, in a quiet place, and with the photographer. But as even if we are together, she's getting very aware about herself, and she understands that the photographer or no one else can really understand what she's feeling at the moment and what kind of things are happening in her life. But she just knows what were happened. And Paula said that she just forgot how somebody else will see the picture later, but she just wondered how she wanted to show herself as to herself that this is true for me and this is who I am. These things are happening to me. And for example, Jenna, whose pictures are over there are green pictures with blossoming spring forest, which she wanted to have in the age of 14, and then there are winter pictures which supposed to be autumn pictures at first, but as we went to the Lapland 1,400 kilometers from Helsinki, and when we arrived there's just start to snow even if it was September, and then we just got the snowstorm picture and that kind of things might happen in those trips. But Jenna was one of our girls who felt at first those shooting sessions kind of too intense, because she didn't felt safe to be looked at by other people, because somehow when child has been treated very badly, meaning of the other people's gazes and looks might turn kind of aggressive and judging, and child might feel that other people are looking at her with kind of bad attention or bad ideas, and they somehow see through her or her shame or that kind of things. And Jenna said that at first those situations felt to her like scary and oppressing, because she hadn't never had before experience to be center of attention. But when she saw those pictures, she felt really glad, because she felt that she's special and beautiful. And now she's using a word special to mean she's different than anyone else, or she's a little bit weird but special. It's not that special that it's in English language, but there is also meaning to being different than others, but she's still beautiful in her own way, and that was the meaningful part. And I think what Jenna says about the photo session, it was very important thing in this process, because I think the real tool in this method is not the photograph, but it's the gaze to be seen, or the looks. And during the 10 years lasting process, actually I think we just build a new meaning to experience to being looked at by other people, that it could be more safe and they could feel that other person can look at them with kind eyes and with listening and appreciative ways, and they got that kind of experiences in many different levels. One was, of course, my listening and loving way to look at them, but the other one was all the attention they got through the photographs from their carers and from their parents, who also felt those pictures very healing and meaningful to them as well, because there are a lot of shame also in their minds because they couldn't take care of their own kids, and see own kid like this, it is really healing thing to them as well. For example, one of our fathers said that that all these things are so weird and strange that he cannot add any idea about it, but he understands everything. And he said that before the project, or before he saw any picture of the project, he just thought that any picture probably don't touch him at all, because he thought that he don't feel anything anymore because of what was happening in his life. So he thought that nothing could never touch him anymore. And he told that he really surprised to see these pictures in the exhibition, because they really touched him. And actually his daughter said that the most important part in this project for her was to see her daddy crying in the exhibition, because she understood that she's very special to her father. And these kind of things were very meaningful to girls. And also, for example, to our nurses or carers in children's home, it were so meaningful to see like inner worlds of the child in those pictures, how she might feel, and those things that children has choose to them into picture were so metaphoric according to their own lives, which those carers know very well, and that's why it was very moving. But one of our carers just said that most touching pictures to her were pictures of one certain girl, because she hasn't heard any good thing ever about her. And just think about it, that these kind of things might happen, but if we are honest, actually these kind of things are happening all the time in front of our own eyes, and even to us is sometimes very hard to see any good in some person. And I think that is all about what is this empowering photography, because the point is that how we can find the good even in those situations where good isn't seen easily, or it feels like impossible to find. And the great thing is that it is always there if we just want to see in another way, and kind of put ourselves into another person's world, instead of trying to look at him in our own position. And that's the point. One healing thing and level of the repairing or healing gaze or looks in this project were also the feedback what these girls got from the totally strange audience in their point of view. For example, all of you, or people, for example, in Finland, because this project has been so popular there, this warmth really touched these girls also, because also they understood that they are not that different than anyone else because of their background. Because people in exhibition, they didn't just look at those pictures like, oh, there is the childcare client's picture like that, but they just got an eye of the picture like it was their own life, and how they are looking at each other or themselves. And actually, for example, in Finland we have kind of long heritage about the education or growing children with shame. So former times it was typical that we have that kind of idioms that don't thank your child too much because it's getting too proud or that kind of thing. So it's more typical that we are a little bit letting children down, and just a couple of generation are even understood that child has to be seen who she really is, and that's the that's the point, that the children has to be the loveliest children of the world for someone, because that is the point when the stable self-esteem and narcissistic base of an adult will build. And now actually our girls just understood that they have actually invited something which helps another persons and another people. And for example, Anne-Marie, who is in that red room, she just said that for her the most important part in the whole project has been that that this idea of using photographs has helped so many other people, and she's very grateful for that she has been able to participate that big project. And it also kind of correct the shame to being marginalized some way, or it build up a feeling of participation to society, because they can help others instead of the position is upside down like it's normally. And then the most important part of being looked at and of healing gaze or looks are, of course, the young person's own way of looking at themselves. And the point is that all these times they could see different sides and different characteristics and different feelings and emotions in those pictures, and they got to choose which were meaningful and which were true to them. And some pictures they didn't recognize themselves at all, and in some pictures they saw more those expectations for other people's, which are not always constructive to them, and they could just leave them and pick up those pictures that were constructive to them and which support them to look at themselves in a more kind way. And also one thing is also kind of repeat, because at first you just were shocked by your own picture, and then you get used to your own expressions and used to see those feelings which might be hard to see. And also you can choose to see yourself in another way, because also our cultural pictures, all these pictures in bus stops and advertisements, they are just getting our eyes used to see beauty of the human body very limited way, because there are no marks of getting older, or there are no marks of any normal life at all, but they are manipulated and limited. And also they teach us to see our own picture as limited way, because all the things that don't exist in those pictures, they just seem to be in our own picture as a failure. So then we are just looking at some detail in our own face or anything and just thinking that that we are just actually reflecting kind of rage or unmerciful attitude towards to this detail, but it doesn't. The whole point is not the detail, but how we are looking at ourselves. Actually, when we are looking at our picture, the point is that it tells us how we are looking at ourselves. It's not just the picture. So, and we also can decide that we don't want to look our picture in unmerciful way and this kind of superficial way, but we can decide that we want to see in the picture a hint of our soul and those characters and sides of our personality which we want to give more space in our life or find them again if we have lost them in certain period of our lives. And then our whole way to see ourselves might change. And something like this also happened to our girls. So, for example, Monna, who is in that room, she said that that finally she felt that she wouldn't have seen herself any gentler at all without these pictures. And it was just because of those pictures felt her so special, because they just made her feel so good. And she's a little bit ashamed to tell, and she's saying that, or she was saying that, oh now I just knew beforehand that you will ask, or you're referring me, or I cannot say, oh, and you know, I can say blah 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 like this, and she's almost covering her face, and then she's saying because of they are, beautiful. And sometimes you just feel that it can't be really you, because you cannot get that beautiful pictures of me, but it has to be someone else. And I think that's the point, because when every meaningful persons in her life are recognizing her in this picture, that this is Mona, it's just as beautiful you are to us, then it makes it more real to her. And also looking at the photograph is bodily. You don't see it only with your eyes, but it really arouses many affects and emotions and bodily reactions. For example, after divorce, people can damage the picture because the pain in the picture might be so real that they are cutting the pictures pieces and doing things like voodoo, a class friend who was bullying me, I just destroying her in the picture and that kind of things. But the same thing is happening when the picture is really meaningful. For example, Milla said that in that picture where she's wearing a crown was kind of turning point in her life at first, because everything in the picture is just right. It's just how she wants to look herself as, and she said that it's important to her that her face are covered by her hair, because she's very shy, and she felt that this kind of sensitivity sees in the picture, and to her it's very important how she's holding those pine cones in her hands, and how gentle she's keeping them, and that she's having and received that crown from her personal carer from the children's home, which were meaningful person for her, and all these things are meaningful. And Mila said that she just wanted to look at it over and over again, and she cannot explain what that picture means. She cannot give it any words, but it just happened to heal her somehow, to let it mingle her ideas and emotions about herself. And pictures just work that way, and sometimes some picture will be very important and you just heal yourself by looking at the picture, and you don't know what happened, but you kind of feed you with the picture. And then some other picture might be more important, and the old important picture, it's getting less important, and that kind of things are meaningful. And if you love to look at yourself, and at first the experience of the maltreated child of herself might be so negative that she don't know any good things about her. She don't believe that she's good at all. And then you just see your picture and it feels good. And you can see it in front of your eyes and feel it in your body. It's totally different evidence to the child than adults' word can be. They are just words. You can say that you're precious, but it doesn't change anything. But what you really feel by looking at the picture is different. And that kind of things were happening in this project. So it has been very huge. So this picture you will see here is kind of tiny part of what we have done. We have traveled more than 200,000 kilometers in Finland to find these places, and we have taken more than 70,000 film frames, and the point was that they choose how they wanted to be seen and which were the meaningful pictures, and so they got thousands of pictures about their growing. For example, Paula said that it's interesting to see your own growing because you're physically changing through years, but something in you is staying same, and you recognize something very essential things in you by looking at those pictures. And also we had a lot of troubles because of the former disappointments which have happened in these girls' life. They might also react like this, that they are those disappointments are kind of familiar to them, so they might repair things to get into that point when the familiar disappointments happened again. And they are also kind of testing me if they are doing like this. Does it happen that this pitch is saying that sorono and you don't have to participate anymore, and that kind of things. And it has been very teaching to me as well. I think in the end all my professional skills are from these girls. And we had to find ways to also discuss about so intimate things that are related to your fears and hopes and how you see yourself and that kind of things. And I think now maybe we could just start a touring. So idea is that I will tell you some nice stories behind the sceneries and how they have been built up and what kind of ideas and accidents and everything has happened there. And you can also ask me anything and we can discuss more. And I think we could start right away here in front of Miina's picture. Okay. So here's 10 different girls, and each of them have their own series, and all the pictures have been taken different years. So you can see the drawing, and they have chosen the faces, and we have planned those dresses together, and for example, and they have chosen the meaningful pictures in the end, so it isn't really photographers' art, but the point is how they want it to be seen. And there are kind of stories behind these pictures. For example, this one of Nina's first pictures, and she wanted to be in the snowstorm, and one storm we just missed first, but the second one was really a good storm. And actually we went to a place which is a most narrow place in the sea in front of Helsinki, and from the sea the wind were so cold, and it was totally vertical, and it just came so powerful that, for example, my statue didn't keep stable at all, but and we can lean on the wind because it could keep us to stay, and then she is there looking so calm and peaceful, and it's so totally cold, and because of it was very first pictures we have taken, we didn't have reasonable clothes underneath the dress, so it is really cold, and this specific picture was very moving as well to our carers, because they just felt that it tells so much about her that she wants to be in a snowstorm. It's just like her life has been. And then many years later, for example, this picture were meaningful for her because she wanted to be on a tree, and it was very hard to get to the tree because she had a serious accident, so it wasn't easy for her to walk on the steps, and we have to borrow the steps in some just house where we didn't know anybody, and we just somehow tied the steps into the roof of the car, and then we just get one step after step. I'm pushing her, and then she got there, and yeah, that was to get down was maybe the most difficult part, and you can understand how powerful it is to be high in a tree. you're kind of landlord of the landscape and a guardian of the nature and that kind of feelings, which might be very special. And that other one, she wanted to be just like one of those flowers, and we did her dress to be just like a apple flower in the May. And this picture was kind of accident. We just found it in the same trip that we took the picture of this tree, and it was very special because she's like covered or hidden by the tree, and I have knitted for her those leaves, which is very warm, and there is also kind of my attention to take care of her or keep her warm, or it's also for, of course, kind of metaphoric things as well, and I think this is very important part in all of these pictures, because point is also like that that the nature can be kind of a sheltering or covering a wounded inner child or that kind of thing. So
it looks like in your mother's belly.
Yeah, in a womb.
Or a seed in a fruit.
Yeah, that's true. Or somebody has felt that it's like a butterfly which are not yet born, or that kind of things. And that's kind of idea of new beginning or new born again, or that kind of things might be very meaningful when the many hurtful things were happening.
Do you photograph boys as well?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, he asked if I'm photographing boys as well. Actually, it was accident that this is the project for girls, because at that time in Hyvönen lastenkoti children's home in Helsinki, which is normal just Helsinki city's children's home, and the children has taken into care from their parents because of parents' problem to take care of the children. And in blue department where I used to work, there were just girls at that time. But after that, there also moved boys in, and I also had photographed them. And I think it's almost the same thing, as the point is how the child or youth want to be seen. But so you don't have to wear a dress and that kind of things. But mostly it's maybe typical that boys in Finland might want to see themselves as they are doing something they are proud of. At first, it's a little bit odd concept to just look yourself in the eyes, because it's I think girls has taught more to have an idea what kind they are and how the other people are looking at them. So they might look at themselves more than boys have done in former generations. But I think it's changing all the time. And nowadays, boys are actually very interesting. Also, their outlook and appearance and that kind of things, which weren't that typical in, for example, one generation ago. So there might be a little difference, but the point is that you don't expect anything at first, but you listen what is meaningful in that person. Yeah.
How did you choose that
I didn't choose them. They all were girls who lived in that department. So they all came in, even if it was easy or hard to them. And actually, for example, one of the girls just had courage enough to join in for a couple of years before she could just look at her own picture, because it's such a big thing. So everybody joining. Yeah. Many people just ask sometimes that did I kind of pick them up because they are so beautiful, and then I say, oh, they are so beautiful, but they are such a normal girl. So point is that anyone just is beautiful when you are seeing in loving way. So point is that you can get awful picture from anyone, and you can take beautiful picture of anyone. It's about the presence and how much you take it, and about cooperation and that kind of things. So here is Jenna's series, and Jenna felt scary those situations at first when we took those photographs, and this is the fancy story about the autumn, because these green pictures they were taking when she was 14 years old, and then she wanted to have a blossoming spring forest. And then it was kind of my job to find a forest which is blossoming. And there are actually a couple of different forests. We took several trips then, and it was very meaningful to her to plan the dress, and she picked up the fabric and what kind of dress it will be, and then these next pictures has taken 7 years later, when she has just turned 21 years old, and then she said that mostly she just can understand how her own way of seeing her has changed through years, because at 14 years old mostly those pictures were hard to look at, and see your own self and body was kind of embarrassing, and just a couple of pictures were very meaningful at that time. But when she was 21 years old, she noticed that almost right away she almost loved nearly all the picture. So she just understood that her way of seeing herself has totally changed. And Jenna said that nowadays when she's looking at her own picture, she feels that she's strong and whole. And I think that's the most important part of this picture, because it doesn't matter if anyone else recognize the whole in this picture or in Jenna's life, but it's just important that she, as herself, can recognize it, and she can believe that she's complete and strong and everything. And I think that's a very important part also, point of view of care work, because normally we just think that we have to have first kind of evidence about the completeness or whole or client being strong, and then after we have measured somehow for psychological tests or anything, after that we can believe that it exists. But I think in a real world it really is totally opposite, because the point is that someone has to believe first, and after that it might get true in real life too. Because when you, for example, when you make that completeness, wholeness visible in a picture, it also start to be true, and it is in the picture concretely, and then you can start to believing in it, and you can share it with other people, and then it might have more space in the real everyday life too. So that's the point. How you want to see? Are you seeing and searching the problems and difficulties, or are you searching the comforting things, or those things you make you more strong? And when you're searching these things, they really can have more space. It's just that simple. Okay.
Did you also share your faith in the children with the children? I mean, you mentioned that sometimes they were seeing at the pictures and they saw it as awful and terrible.
Yeah.
And did you at the time share your own faith in them, or you just let them to experience? To grow their own faith.
Yeah. No, I think the point is that that my role, or any carer's role in this kind of process, is to be kind of a loving mirror all the time. The point is that the meaning that she gives to the picture is the right meaning, but I accept all of these meanings, even if they were hard or somehow healing. Point is that I see valuable and beautiful also those pictures that they want to just leave or let go. But we don't actually destroy any pictures or delete any picture, because we in this project we use film, so they really exist. And I haven't heard that any of our girls hadn't delayed or destroyed their pictures. The point is that you have to give time to look at the picture, because at first it might be shocking. When you look at it second or third time, you don't look at it that unmerciful anymore. And maybe after a couple of years it might be quite interesting picture for you, and after 20 years you don't understand what was a problem in a picture, but you just thought that it's most important picture then. So it's important to save the pictures, because your own mindset might change. Yeah. Then here is Paula's pictures. Or actually, let's see Petra's first. Petra was one of our youngest girls. She was just 9 years old when we started, and she wanted to have wings and absolutely pictures in winter time, because summer isn't her thing. And we just made up those wings to her, and for example, this picture over there, this small ones, is really how I remember her when I met her. She was maybe 5 or 6 years, and she was like this, and she was walking with her toes and trying to be so quiet that she's not disturbing anybody, and also a kid that small is very special to photograph, because there are so much play in those pictures. When she got that wings, she really was that fairy. She's turning that fairy, and it was very meaningful. And at that age, she's 11 years old, and that age, young person also start to be more aware how other people are looking at her, because there might be puberty coming, and then you have to be so sensible to taking photographs, because so tiny little things can be hurtful to the child. And then these pictures, they have been taken when she was about 18 or 19 years old, and then actually she wanted to have wings again, but you know, more classy way. So those wings are kind of hidden there. This dress, which is that one on the corner, it's like this. We just made this kind of you know, fabric, and when it's very windy in those Nordic mountains in Lapland, those fabrics were like big black wings, and it was just so dramatic, like it is to be 18 years old. And this is very beautiful place. It's taken just a couple of days before all the snow has been melted. So it's taken on May, and it's almost pretty warm, and there are a lot of powerful spring rivers going on from the mountain, and so many of those pictures has been taken quite special moments. So the season and the weather and that kind of things just happen to be that kind they finally are, and we have to manage with those conditions. And these are Paula's pictures and images. First Paula's pictures were taken in a next neighborhood from children's home, and she just picked up which were meaningful. And the second year, which is time like this one, she wanted to have pictures in autumn, and there will be colors of autumn and leaves of autumn, and then it was the idea. And 1 year later, which is this strip and also those small ones, she wanted to be in an abandoned house at the summer night and wearing a rag. And I really didn't know the specific abandoned house, so I suggested to Paula this old brick factory I found my own childhood accidentally, and it was kind of adventure of my childhood, and I told about it to Paula, and she got really enthusiastic about it, and we took the trip there, and at the same trip we actually found this abandoned house, and we went there through the broken window, and everything in the place was just like it was 30 years ago. Nothing has changed during these years, and it was like an adventure, and always in those trips there happen a lot of things that we haven't planned beforehand, but they seem to be very meaningful. For example, Paula found this nest in the old brick factory, and it was meaningful for her because she was carrying a child, and that was of course a turning point in her life, and it was meaningful for her to keep a nest and just consider the things that is connected to it. And here is Milla's series. This one, she's wearing a crown, was also kind of starting point to our project, because at first Miina said that it won't happen that you don't get any pictures of her at all, because she thought it's an idiotic idea to take pictures. And after a couple of months, she softened a little bit her idea, and she said that, okay, maybe we can take those pictures, but we cannot take it now in the summer, because those have to be taken in the autumn. So then we have kind of a option that maybe in autumn we can take those pictures. And then it also went a couple of months again, and then one day she just asked me to come her room into children's home, and she showed me this crown, what she had received from her personal carer, and she said that this must be in the picture. And after that Milla's picture, also our other girls just started to have an idea about their own picture, because at first they didn't have any idea. My questions like who you really are and what is meaningful for you, or what kind of person you are, it was just a strange question, because anyone hadn't put that question to them before. So it was just like they would like they was awakened somehow. Oh, what kind am I? And it starts a kind of process. And I think in this picture that someone has seen Milla's crown was the important part to other girls as well. So it helps them to imagine their own pictures and what is important to them. To be special, that you can make visible such things that are not visible in real life, you know. And this is kind of a special moment also. It is fresh forest fire, and we have gone to this place with firemen, and it's still smoking, and you cannot see this kind of color anywhere in nature, because the crown is black and blue. It's totally weird. And also there was just one young tree left, and those leaves which were dried, they were shifted like a silver because of the heat, and it was amazing. And this picture really touches me, because in that moment I just secretly thought that it looks like silver is raining on Miina, and I just hope that it must be happiness or some good things. And but Miina has her own story, which is the right one. These pictures are also interesting. The place is called a giant kettle. It's from the Ice Age, when water has dropped into rock thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, and it's normal under the waters. You can see the water line there, and even if we don't have any money to do this kind of project, because we just
do it and think afterwards was it reasonable or not. We just have to find people who can help us just because of their goodwill. And this place was in the archipelago, and you have to have a good boat and skills to go there. And it's a totally Swedish-speaking area. And my Swedish is not that good, but I just called unknown people, just looking at the phone catalogs, the certain area, and ask in Swedish, "Hello, do you know somebody who has a boat?" And after maybe 5 or 6 calls, we just found a very old a farmer, old guy, and he just took us during the night time to the island and take us away in the morning, and hopefully he understood that he has to pick us away there as well. But it was very special, and because of the that we could get all those contrasts into the picture, we has wet the place, and we didn't understand that because it's normally under the water, it's getting so slippery because there are some, the plants which is going everywhere in the sea. So it was really hard to get Milla in one piece to the bottle or to the kettle, because I used the blanket. I just lean on with blanket upside down in the up, and she's just using it to go to the pottery, and it was a special moment. And that's also a kind of special story. Milla had a dream that she's walking on the water, and at a very specific same day she called me and told about the dream, and same day actually I was on the other part in Finland, that in the middle of the Finland that time, in the island, just writing something, and I was rowing on the lake, and then I accidentally crashed middle of the lake, in the middle of the lake, in a small area where there is only a couple of centimeters of water. And then I told it to Milla, guess what? and she got really enthusiastic, and we did her dream to the picture. And this was a special trip because normally we just went those places separately with one girl. But in this trip there were also Petra, who is our youngest girl, and she were at that time she was 15 years old, and she learned to row, which is actually, Finland is a land of thousands of lakes, so it's really rare that a 15 years old person cannot row, but she learned to row there, and I'm actually in front of Milla here, this deep with those fisherman trousers, and with my statue, and Petra is rowing around the area, and she's really enthusiastic. She's shouting there, and hey, look at me, I can turn like this and I can turn like that, and our luggages are in the boat, and the final pictures they are taking in that dark that I actually don't see anything anymore. I don't know what is in the frame because it's a night and we're normally using so-called magic hour or blue moment after sunset or before the dawn, where light is very magical and you can see normal things as a magical way as well. And it's very dark, and when I'm doing those prints for the exhibition in dark room, I also saw that actually we couldn't use all the Milla's important picture because of some of the pictures they were part of Petra's boat. So Petra also left kind of mark into Milla's picture that way. And there, here Milla wanted to be just like one of those plants in the forest, and this is the dress we made her, and there are stripes like this looking a little bit like those plants there. Okay. Okay, in this room there are Ann-Maris, Ansku's pictures and Monna's pictures, and for example, Monna, who was the girl who first considered those pictures shocking and that it was really hard to look at them. Monna said that it's odd to her that some people might think that these pictures are like a role play, because she didn't see that kind of aspect in those pictures at all. Monna thought that the real life, it is the role play, because you faced other people's expectations all the time, and they affect so much into that how you consider your own life, and it might be like your life has been sealed beforehand to be certain kind of life, and that people are expecting certain things from you because of your background as a child care resident, or they don't expect from you nothing because of your background. It's even more hurtful. And Monna said that in this picture where she's covered by the tree, it is the first one where she can see who she really is. She just thinks that her soul is in the picture. It's meaningful to her to see the fragility and some aspects of being hurt in the picture, but she just feels that they will be always part of her life and part of her personality, but she still wants to see them as a meaningful part and kind of valuable part of her life. And I think this is a very important thing, because in these pictures you can see so much your pain and hurt in your own face and eyes, but at the same time there is a lot of comforting elements like greatness of the nature and beauty of nature and the connection between me and the girl, which has been also a meaningful thing. That point is like that even if you're broken, you can still be whole and you can still be complete. So the both things might be true, but you can see them as different ways. And this picture is there's very moving story as well. Mona was one of our girls who has very strict ideas of her own pictures even before we started the project with her. Her little sister Mila has joined the project before and she really much wanted to participate. And Mona has listed different things what she wants to be in the picture, and one thing was this boat, and she knew exactly what kind of shape it has to be and how old it has to be, and there cannot be any paintings, and it has to be certain kind. And after many years, the meaning of the boat just changed. At first, she has idea of fires in the lake and that kind of things. But in that time, so many things in her life were connected to kind of sorrow and loss, which was connected to her relationship with her mother, and sorrow caused by hurtful things what were happened. And Mona said that in that time she just felt that the thing she desires most in her life were that she would like to have give a chance to her mother and herself to start everything all over again, and she would like to be just a newborn baby and do everything different way. But when it's not possible, there are also a lot of sorrow, and doing a picture like this is kind of awful because this water is so cold that it hurts to be there. It's maybe +4 degrees or something like that. It's almost you're surrounded by ice, and I will never forget how much she's cursing there. Really much, really bad language. But it's so meaningful that you bear the pain, because the picture is so important, and that is one powerful thing in an image, in a photograph, because you can mix fact and fiction and make happen, make real that kind of things which are not possible in real life. You can. It's possible that the sorrow doesn't leave her life ever, but when you have this picture, maybe she can leave a little of the pain into the picture. It's then some new things and new aspects might get more space in her life, and I think that's an interesting thing, because many times when we have some hurtful issue in our lives, it might be that we understand that it's hurtful and it's not a constructive thing to us, but we are somehow in touch the issue, so we cannot let it go because it's so big thing in our life and in our own personality. So even hurtful, we just trying to just keep it and when you put the pain or put the thing in a picture, it is there. So it's a kind of safe place, so you can let it go just that much that it is in a picture, but it's not totally away. So that is some kind of thing which might make easier to let it a little, and this kind of very therapeutic abstract things might happen with photographs. And here is Ann-Mari's series, and Ann-Mari has, for example, made her own dress from the beginning. She's very talented person to sew things, and this place we actually found by an accident is a mine, and it's not allowed to go there, and we had to just tour around the very big area to find the little hole in the fence where we just can scroll into the place and into the edge of the mine, and so there was a lot of adventure, and we are very, very close to the edge, and it was so beautiful, and sunish is setting there, and this is after sunset, and I think very many people just feel, for example, this picture of Ann-Mari very touching because there are so much sensibility and something special in her. And these pictures are taken earlier. For example, this was meaningful that there are like a tear in a tree, and in that place there was raining all the 3 days we were there, and those white flowers are flowers that Finnish kids are collecting to their moms in a Mother's Day in May, and I always remember because it was raining. This dress worn by her was so wet that it's scrolling after her in the ground, on the ground, and it smells like I can't explain what, but you know, it's not really that romantic or special to take those photos because conditions are quite awful, but the picture is very beautiful, and we made her dress just like it looks. It's just a little bit visible in the darkness because of those white stripes, but otherwise she's almost hidden into the nature. And for example, Monna said that it was very healing for her to see herself as a tiny part of the greatness of the nature, because it also felt that her troubles and difficulties are just a tiny part of the whole big picture. It doesn't matter that much, and you know, the nature can be kind of guardian of the inner child or that kind of things. It's all about trust also, I think. And this place was quite special. It's in a suburban area in Helsinki, and there's a little forest, and it's a part of an old mansion. And we accidentally found a place, and it's so weird that kind of normal area there might be such things that we didn't see. Or raw or antique, but nowadays it's not that kind of place anymore because it's reconstructed and it's too wide and there's a park and everything. Just coming. Okay, here is Tuula's series and serial, and Tuula's meaningful element was water. So in every shooting trip, water was in some meaningful role. And for example, this place was a place where I used to play as a kid, and we called it a Gold Coast because the sand in very there's just few water, and sand is very, very soft, and it's turned to gold. There is a special rock which is like gold. In Finnish language, you're saying it as gold of the cat because it's not worth of gold in a real world, but for example, point of view of children, it's wonderful. And because of the cold, sun is shifting very special way, and that was meaningful picture for Tuula. Or in this picture, there was so cold winter, and normally this Nordic river is also in winter time floating free, but running free. But now it's almost covered by ice because it was so cold. And this tree is 900 years old, and Godfather used to play in the tree as a little kid because it's empty. He told that there were actually 40 kids into the tree because it's so big. Tuula is very special to me. I think our relationship is really much based on also kind of critical eye of the society. We are discussing about deep things and critical issues with her all the time. Actually, with all of these kids, we have a little bit different relationships. For example, Anne-Marie in the picture with mine. She's very good cook and very clever girl, and she's doing wonderful dinners to me, and then we are discussing all the important things, and those things are quite meaningful for me as well. I forgot to tell with those Tuulos pictures that actually we had to have a lot of worry and trouble before get into those places, because for example the snowy hill with trees looking like bonsai trees, we had to just hitchhike with snowshoes, so deep snow, which even if we had those special shoes, we are just every step just like this deep in the snow, and it's really exhausting to get there, and because we would be there before the morning blue moment or magic hour, so it's about 1 hour before the sun is getting up. So that's why we have to use lamp of our heads, and I'm not really any hitchhike girl myself either, so it's all about trust of their point of view as well, because they have courage enough to follow me to the certain kind of wild places, because it's just this close that we even understand where we were at that time. Yeah, but this is Mira, and Mira is a wanderer, and that's why we went places like these, and there are rivers from the mountain, and her guardian dog is also in the picture, so we traveled with the dog. And this one is the only picture in this whole exhibition which hasn't been taken in Finland, but it's been taken inside of Norway's Lapland. So in Finland we don't have that kind of sharp rocks at all. But for example, this place and that place, they are one of the most vivid Nordic places in the world. So it's very rare that there are so much plants growing there, because for example, birch are called in Finnish language like they are poor birds, because they are such a tiny ones in that north. And for example, those long dresses are very useful, because, for example, beneath this dress of Mira there are also fisherman trousers. So it's not that nasty thing to be there. And this is the summer night with midnight summer. There are bridge of the moon, but sun is still shining, and it's middle of the summer. And these Tiina's pictures here. She wanted to have wedding dress, and that was connected to that she was carrying her little kid, who is Helmi in these pictures, and Helmi means her name means in Finnish pearl, so it's little pearl, Tiina's pearl, and this wedding dress is actually my mother's old wedding dress from 60s. And the whale isn't the original one, because I spoiled it as a kid with my brother and sister, but it's another one. But this place was one that Tiina already knew. She had stopped the place one time with her personal carer from children's home when she passed by to her father in another city, and it was meaningful for her because there was some good memories connected to the place. And I think these are very sweet. To me, it's touching to see the happiness in Tiina's eyes when she's with her daughter. I think it's very meaningful. And here, finally, here is here are just documentary making of pictures during the process. So this is how I remember those kids. These are taking. This has been taken before the project started, and these are like I saw them in a children's home at first. So you can also see how meaningful it is that we are going to another place and another world, and putting those clothes off and making the moment special, because in the children's home they are also in their roles which they have in front of the other people's eyes, and